A routine evening walk takes a shocking turn when a racist cop stops a black woman for looking out of place. He mocks, harasses, and handcuffs her, unaware he just arrested the most powerful person in the city. But when the truth comes out, his world crumbles. What happens next is a gripping journey of justice, redemption, and a lesson he'll never forget. Watch till the end to see the shocking twist that changes everything. The fog rolled in thick over Pacific Heights, softening the edges of Victorian mansions and draping the streets in a ghostly haze. This was San Francisco's elite perch, million-dollar views of the bay, streets lined with Teslas and trimmed hedges, a neighborhood that breathed privilege. Officer Daniel "Danny" Hargrove cruised down Fillmore Street in his patrol car, the blue uniform taut across his broad shoulders, his badge a gleaming testament to his authority. At 36, Danny had spent 12 years with the SFPD, and he wore his role like armor. To him, policing was a sacred duty, keeping the right people safe, the wrong ones out. And in his mind, right had a color, pale, polished, and Pacific Heights approved. He saw her through the mist, a black woman striding up the hill, her trench coat flapping in the breeze, a leather satchel slung over her shoulder. She moved with purpose, her heels clicking against the pavement, but Danny's gut twisted. She didn't belong. Not here. This was a place for tech moguls, old money heirs, and their pristine families, not her. His fingers tightened on the steering wheel, a reflex born of years patrolling the city's grittier corners. She was a disruption, and Danny Hargrove didn't tolerate disruptions. He pulled over, stepping out with a swagger that matched the glint of his badge. "Hey!" he called, his voice cutting through the fog. She stopped, turning slowly, her face emerging from the haze. She was tall, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that held a quiet intensity. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her coat bore the subtle sheen of quality, expensive, maybe even custom. But Danny's instincts screamed, outsider. "ID," he said, planting himself in her path. "Let's see it." Her brow lifted, a flicker of something, amusement, irritation, crossing her face. "Why?" she asked, her voice calm, accented with a faint East Coast edge. "New York, maybe D.C. "This is a private neighborhood," he replied, stepping closer. "We've had complaints. Suspicious activity. Show me your ID." "Suspicious activity?" she echoed, her tone dry. "Like walking home?" "Don't get smart," he snapped. "ID, now." She sighed, reaching into her satchel with deliberate slowness. Danny's hand hovered near his holster, a habit ingrained from too many tense nights. She pulled out a slim wallet, flipping it open to reveal a California driver's license. "Lena Carter," it read. 41 years old. Address: a street in Pacific Heights. Danny knew was lined with 8-figure homes. He smirked, tossing it back. "Fake. Nice try." Her eyes darkened. "It's not fake, it's mine." "Yeah, right," he said, voice thick with disdain. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." "You're kidding," she said, her voice rising with disbelief. "Turn around!" Danny grabbed her wrist, twisting it with a force he'd mastered over years. She winced, but didn't resist as he snapped the cuffs on, her satchel thudding to the wet pavement. A dog walker across the street paused, phone in hand. But Danny didn't care. He was the law, and she was the problem. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly, her tone steady despite the steel on her wrists. "Tell it to the judge," he shot back, shoving her toward his cruiser. He radioed dispatch, his voice brimming with smug certainty. "Got a trespasser. Bringing her in." He didn't see the black SUV idling a block away, its tinted windows hiding watchful eyes. The precinct on Geary Boulevard hummed with its usual chaos. Officers barking orders, phones ringing off the hook. When Danny marched Lena through the doors, heads turned, but he ignored them, pushing her toward the booking desk. "Run her," he told a rookie named Patel, slapping the license down. "Trespassing, possible fraud." Patel hesitated, glancing at Lena. "Sir, she—" "Do it," Danny snapped. Before Patel could move, the precinct doors swung open with force. 5 figures stormed in. 3 men and 2 women in tailored suits, earpieces glinting, their strides purposeful and menacing. Behind them came Captain Teresa Nguyen, Danny's supervisor, her face a mask of barely contained fury. The lead suit, a wiry man with a shaved head, stepped forward, flashing a badge that hit Danny like a brick. "Agent Marcus Tate, SFPD Internal Affairs," the man said, his voice a low rumble. "Uncuff her. That's Chief Lena Carter, your new police commissioner." The world tilted. Danny's hands fumbled with the cuffs, the metal clinking awkwardly as he freed her. Lena rubbed her wrists, her gaze locking onto him, not with triumph, but with a cold, piercing clarity that made his knees weak. The precinct went silent, every eye boring into him like a spotlight. "You didn't ask," she said softly. "You assumed." Danny's mouth opened, but his throat was dry. Captain Nguyen stepped in, her voice a whip. "Hargrove, you're suspended. No pay. Pending investigation. Get out." He stumbled back, the weight of his badge suffocating. As he fled, the last thing he saw was Lena straightening her coat, her dignity unshaken, while whispers erupted around her like a storm. The video hit X that night. A dog walker's shaky footage, Danny cuffing Lena, her calm defiance clashing with his aggression, spread like wildfire. By morning, it was everywhere. CNN, local news, protest chants outside City Hall. "Racist cop shames new chief," blared the headlines. San Francisco erupted, marchers flooding the Embarcadero, their signs demanding justice. Danny's name became a rallying cry, his face a symbol of everything broken in the system. Suspended indefinitely, he retreated to his cramped Mission District apartment, the walls closing in as the city raged beyond them. Weeks bled into months. Stripped of his uniform, Danny felt unmoored, a ghost in his own life. He'd always seen himself as the protector, the line between order and chaos. Now he was the chaos. The realization gnawed at him, relentless and raw. One night, staring at a half-empty bottle of whiskey, he hit a wall. He couldn't undo the past, but he could confront it. He started volunteering at a community center in the Bayview, a working-class black neighborhood he'd once patrolled with disdain. The residents eyed him like a predator, their mistrust a wall he couldn't breach. He didn't blame them. He taught kids to read, hauled boxes at food drives, listened to stories of lives he'd never bothered to see. Stories of fear, resilience, and quiet strength. Slowly, the work cracked him open, peeling back layers of arrogance and bias he'd worn like a second skin. Months turned into a year. The headlines faded, but Danny's journey didn't. He wrote letters to Lena, dozens of them, apologies he never sent, words too fragile for the weight of his regret. Then, one foggy March morning in 2025, he saw her. She was at a press conference in Hunters Point, unveiling a new youth mentorship program. Her presence was electric, her voice steady as she spoke of trust, reform, and second chances. He waited until the crowd thinned, then approached, his heart hammering. She saw him coming and didn't flinch. Up close, she was as formidable as ever, her dark eyes searching his. "Chief Carter," he began, his voice rough. "I'm sorry. For that day. For who I was. I've been trying to change. Not for my badge. I don't deserve it. For me." She studied him, silent for a long moment. "You think an apology fixes it?" "No," he said, holding her gaze. "But I'm asking for a chance to prove I'm different. I've started. I'll keep going." Lena's expression softened, but only slightly. "Redemption's not a gift, Hargrove. It's a grind. You've got miles to go, more than you know. But you're moving. That's something." She turned to leave, then paused. "Keep walking," she said over her shoulder. "The world's still watching." Danny stood there, the fog curling around him, her words sinking deep. He didn't know if she'd ever forgive him, or if San Francisco would. But as he walked back into the mist, a fragile hope took root. Not absolution, but possibility. His story wasn't over. Neither was hers. And in a city and a world still wrestling with its shadows, that was enough to keep going.